Hello everyone, I'm Arindam Jana. I'm an urban economist working with the cities unit at UNEP. Today, we will be looking at an overview on building vibrant and green local economies that encourage sustainable lifestyles. In this module, we have three parts, beginning with an introduction on what constitutes a green economy and the importance of the neighborhood approach in enabling sustainable lifestyles. We then move on to the second part, where we look at ways to mainstream sustainable choices, and then conclude with an overview of how planning tools and design mechanisms can be used to enable sustainable lifestyles. Green and thriving neighborhoods foster a transition to a green economy with sustainable lifestyles. This entails doing more and better with less. It is about decoupling economic growth from environmental degradation, increasing resource efficiency, and promoting sustainable lifestyles. A just transition to a green economy can contribute substantially to poverty alleviation and to the changeover towards low carbon and green economies. The overview presents strategies that support SDGs 3, good health and well-being, 5, gender equality, 8, decent work and economic growth, 11, sustainable cities and communities, 12, responsible consumption and production, and 13, climate action. The overview provides tools to grow a green economy in all communities, define actions to make sustainable lifestyle choices easy, and to plan and design for green lifestyles. Let us begin with the first part of this module, where we take a look at defining concepts of the green economy. This part is titled Growing a Green Economy in All Communities. A green economy is low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive. In a green economy, growth in employment and income is driven by public and private investment into green economic activities. Infrastructure and assets reduce carbon emissions and pollution, enhance energy and resource efficiency, and prevent the loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services. Green and thriving neighborhoods can encourage a development path that understands solar and natural capital as a critical asset and a source of public benefits. This is particularly true for poor people whose livelihoods depend on natural resources. An example is rainwater harvesting in India. Combining traditional harvesting practices with new technologies can make water accessible, clean, and safe to drink. A local green economy represents the confluence of economic development, workforce improvement, and environmental stewardship. Green economy is beneficial to both economic prosperity and environmental enhancement. Green economic practices encourage workforce development to account for environmental impacts. Environmental actions are prompted to regard for how their policies affect growth and job creation. The next slides present strategies that local governments can implement for growing a green economy. Sustainable procurement allows governments to minimize greenhouse gas emissions, improve resource efficiency, and support recycling. It is a process where public organizations meet their needs for goods, services, works, and utilities in a way that achieves value for money on a whole life cycle basis. It triggers benefits not only to the organization but also to society and the economy, whilst significantly reducing negative impacts on the environment. An example is London. It incorporated sustainable procurement and circular economy practices into the regeneration of Old Oak and Park Royal. Producing and consuming locally builds community wealth, increases self-reliance and economic security, and eliminates the environmental impacts associated with transporting goods over long distances. The positive impacts of local expenditures ripple through entire local economies. Manufacturers develop jobs by producing goods in a community. On-site jobs and income are created by distributing and installing the goods. Additional jobs and economic activity are created by supplying goods and services to people in the primary green activity, and so on. Locally obtained food can provide better quality food at a lower cost to the communities. Locally sourced renewable energy can reduce the price of living for residents, the cost of doing business for businesses, and create security in the energy supply. An example is BedZ's local sourcing policy, which obtained 52% of the materials from within the target 35-mile radius. Waste stream management is an important component of the green economy. By lessening the costs and negative externalities associated with waste disposal, local governments create jobs and lower the costs of doing business. Achieving this goal requires innovative technologies to reduce the waste stream, increasing recycling rates, and transforming waste to energy without relying on incineration. Neighborhood level interventions are one of the ways to gradually rescale global urban food systems, in parallel with large scale efforts to address the entire food industry. From this perspective, actions can be created to integrate food waste into circular transitions, from composting in green open spaces to create fertilizer. Also, recycling initiatives can be implemented to use food waste to create biogas. On a higher level, linking with the city's deep connections with supply chains can help reconcile different scales of food supply. The concept of product as a service or servitization is giving consumers access to a service instead of investing in the equipment needed to generate it. The consumer only pays for the units they consume, while the asset stays in the ownership of the party providing the solution. Through servitization, individuals can benefit from the state-of-the-art technologies with no investments and maintenance costs. Moreover, users become more aware of their overall consumption, which encourages them to behave more sustainably. Just transitions include anticipating and funding early, particularly in the carbon-intensive industries. Governments will play a role in financing and collaborating with businesses to ensure that changeovers are fair. Securing a just transition includes planning for gaps in geography, timing, and skills with new jobs. Workers must be prepared with the appropriate skill sets to take on new occupations, prioritizing underprivileged groups, as shown here with training disadvantaged communities, women in India, to become solar engineers. It also encompasses ensuring that new jobs are decent, particularly in emerging green industries. In developing cities, actions for transitioning to a global economy include ensuring access to energy by employing off-grid electricity generation systems for electrification, as shown here in Tuvalu Islands. Actions also feature optimizing waste management and recycling, building on natural capital assets to foster other sectors, and adding value in agriculture through diversification into organic crops. Now moving on to the second part, titled Making Sustainable Lifestyle Choices Easy. Here, we will look at some ways in which sustainable lifestyle choices can be mainstreamed into our day-to-day urban existence. In a world stretched thin for resources and under the threat of global biodiversity loss and climate change, our lifestyle decisions are putting the planet at risk. Sustainable living means understanding how our choices impact the world around us and finding ways for everyone to live better and lighter. Thus, applying a people lens to sustainability is timely and triggers opportunities at the community level. Implementing awareness campaigns and providing people an individualized consumption-based emissions inventory, as in the Innesto project in Italy, coupled with financial instruments to subsidize sustainable lifestyles, can help increase consciousness and trigger change. Consumption-based emissions can be minimized by prioritizing the provision of services instead of goods. This might be achieved by incentivizing service-based businesses as peer-to-peer sharing and by encouraging businesses that proactively support local suppliers, like cafes and restaurants sourcing locally grown food. This is shown here with the example of shared cargo bikes. Urban agriculture, as shown here in Cuba, participates to food availability at proximity of homes. This supplies employment and income. It strengthens the food security and nutrition of urban dwellers, provides healthy, fresh food options, can have a large impact on the social and emotional well-being of individuals. It contributes to a sense of community, aesthetic improvement, crime diminution, minority empowerment, and autonomy. It expands the economic base of the neighborhood through production, processing, packaging, and marketing of consumable products. It reduces the area carbon transportation footprint. In this part, titled Planning and Designing for Sustainable Lifestyles, we draw on planning and design innovations that have enabled sustainable lifestyles around the globe to highlight how urban design can act as an enabling factor. Buildings, infrastructure, and public spaces can make sustainable behavior easy so that daily life is naturally low in emissions. This requires diversifying land use and mixing uses, incorporating service supply, providing access at less than 15 minutes to shared services, designing for change and reuse. An example of service integration within a range of 5-minute walk is the Super Spine in Praderas in Santiago, Chile. It is tied to a multimodal metropolitan transportation strategy that triples the transit catchment area in western Santiago, serving over 3 million people. Land use choices significantly impact resource use, environmental quality, and economic activity. Planning and connecting places as shown here in Praderas, Santiago, Chile, provides local governments with powerful tools for fostering the green economy. By encouraging smart integration of transport and land use, local governments can increase the quality of life and improve the local business environment. Fine-tuning land use supports the implementation of mixed-use planning. UN Habitat recommends limiting land use specialization with single-function blocks covering less than 10% of any neighborhood. It suggests diversifying land use with at least 40% of floor space allocated for economic activity in any neighborhood. Planning mixed-use neighborhoods, as shown here in Mumbai, blends multiple uses such as residential, commercial, cultural, institutional, or entertainment into one space, where those functions are physically and functionally integrated with pedestrian connections. Mixed-use planning applies from the neighborhood scale right down to buildings and spaces. In this way, every area of the locality may support multiple purposes. Blocks can also be designed at mixed use, arranged horizontally, vertically, or as a combination of the two within the same blocks or buildings. In Kampong Admiralty HDB housing in Singapore, for instance, three strata juxtapose to foster diversity of cross-programming and free up the ground level for activity generators. The program comprises a 3D layering of housing, mixed use, health, children and elder care amenities, and gardens in the sky with a terraced community farm. Active street frontages with transparency encourage visual engagement between those in the street and those on the ground and upper floors of the building. This creates lively streets, providing a flow of customers to local businesses and offering safe spaces for community interaction, as shown here in French Dream Town in Hangzhou. Finally, planning for sustainable lifestyles incorporates evolution and reuse in space by integrating a mix of uses in proximity and over time, by letting uses be adapted, personalized, and transformed according to new needs. Finally, in conclusion, let us summarize the key takeaways from this module. Greening the community economy encourages a just transition that understands solar and natural capital as an economic asset and a source of public benefits. This is especially true for poor people whose livelihoods depend on natural resources. Local governments can implement strategies for growing a green economy, in particular in deprived communities. Resource efficiency, waste stream management, sustainable public procurement, local production and utilization, fostering green jobs, building community capacity, and training women. Encouraging sustainable lifestyles empowers people to live better and lighter, encouraging shared economy and urban agriculture. Land use decisions, such as investing in connective public transport infrastructure and zoning for mixed use and adaptable uses, impact positively resource use, environmental quality, and economic activity.